Yo, Tom Fiddzy here with my second review straight after doing my Black Widow. See the poster back there? Hopefully. There it is. Just saw Black Widow, and I also saw, just before I left for the cinema, I saw Loki episode 5, but then I had to rush, so I couldn't do my review just then. So I've got all Black Widow on the brain. Let's try and remember what happened in Loki episode 5. This was like, apart from the first episode, this episode was the one that I was like most hyped to watch, you know. I was really hyped watching the first episode. Obviously there was hype for the second one, but then we had that tease at the end of episode 4 with the Richard E. Grant classic Loki, and most importantly of all, Alligator Loki, Alligator Loki. This is one take. I can't edit that out. I gotta leave Alligator Loki in. But I was most hyped for this one, and it was pretty good. It definitely did some hints, big hints, as to who the villain is going to be overall. I mean, if they do something crazy and it turns out that it is Mephisto in the end, that is going to be an ultimate, like, ultimate troll moment where they're just like, you think it's going to be Kang? Everything is pointing to Kang. You thought it was going to be Mephisto in WandaVision. Ha! It's Mephisto here in Loki. I think it's definitely Kang. So in this episode, Loki, he's in the crazy world, the Loki world, the Loki verse, and there's Lokis everywhere. Yeah, and there's, by the way, this is going to be spoiler heavy. There's also a little Thor cameo. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Lots of cameos, lots of crazy things in the background, some good stuff to talk about. But there's this big cloud monster, and I was like, ugh, a cloud monster? Like, remember all those rubbish old superhero films, you know? Galactus is going to turn up in the Fantastic Four, and Green Lantern, there's going to be a big bad guy. It was always a big cloud monster. It kind of became a trope of comic book movies, the big cloud monster. And I was like, oh, really? And they were like, this is Abeloth. And I'm like, who? Yeah, it turns out Abeloth is a character from the comics and is a big cloud monster. So comic accurate cloud monster confirmed in this episode. And apparently because I was reading it on the bus on the way to Black Widow, because I was like, who is Abeloth? Because I don't know. And yeah, it turns out in the comics, Abeloth was like another big time traveling kind of being that was like conquered half of the timeline, and like it was the biggest rival of Kang. But in this one, it's like a kind of a guard dog, and they gave it like a dog-like face, kind of made it look like the Pokemon Salandit. If you don't know what that Pokemon is, Google Salandit. But it had like this dog-like skull, a Salandit skull. Salandit, Abeloth, and yeah, comic accurate and big connection, as I say, to Kang. But in this kind of weird universe, this big, powerful being that even Kang was like couldn't defeat and stuff, and was like constantly warring with, you know, a villain warring with a villain. This thing that just eats everything up in the universe was a guard dog. So what does that mean for Kang in the MCU? If this being that is super powerful is just the guard dog, what kind of next, how are you gonna, if Kang is the next Thanos, how are you gonna top that? How are you literally gonna top that? You got like crazy, right? And I do have some questions though with the Abeloth, right? So it's this big, super powerful thing. We see the shot where there's like a military boat, and it just devours the people instantly, and even devours like the boat mostly. And Loki's like, oh, wow. And it's just like, you know what would have been really cool in that moment? Yeah, we can see it's strong, but it would have been really cool if we saw like a variant of like Thanos appear, and then Loki's watching and it just devours Thanos like that. And then you're like, oh, wow. Yeah, now I know what kind of level this character's at, you know, because you got to think that this place that they're at, that Loki's at, is called the Void. So at the end of the timeline, it's a little bit like Sakaar, but like the Sakaar is like the dumping ground of the galaxy or the universe. And the Void is like the dumping ground of the timeline of the multiverse, right? Where everything ends up, mostly stuff from Earth, mostly stuff from New York and around New York, apart from those weird bauble head chicken things, where are they from? They should appear in like the next Guardians of the Galaxy film, just so we can get some references to where they're from, unless they are from a timeline where chickens are bauble heads. But regardless, ignore the fact that it's mostly Earth. That's just to make it recognizable, right? There are some alien stuff in there. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But yeah, it's like a void at the end of the universe where not when you prune stuff and when universes and that timelines get erased, not everything gets erased. There's always like a little bit left over, like when you're like cleaning a pan and there's always that one little last bit that you got to scrape off. That last little bit of dirt, that's what the void is. And Abeloth is the thing that basically does that final clean. Is like just like a big black hole that just finishes everything up, right? Abeloth was described as, by classic Loki, who was fantastic, right? How good was classic Loki? Described as being like the shark in the shark cage, right? So, yeah, it's this end of the universe place where everyone gets dumped. So does that mean that, like I say, the multiple Thanoses get dumped there if they go wrong? If Thanos picks up the wrong fruit and changes the timeline from his farm, does a Thanos get dumped there? Does a Thor with Stormbreaker get dumped there? Do all of these other powerful characters? Does a Galactus mess up? Does Galactus go left, not right, and get dumped there? And then does Abeloth eat them and beat them? Like, how insanely powerful is this thing? That's why I think it would have been really cool if we got to see that jump. It would have been really cool, actually, to have a Thor cameo, like a Chris Hemsworth Thor, because we do get a Thor cameo. Have a Chris Hemsworth Thor turn up and he's like, "Hey Loki, let's do get help," and then Abeloth just eats Thor like that. That would have been like, like 30 seconds of screen time, just Chris Hemsworth going Loki, and then dies. That would have been really cool. Then you would have been like, well, yeah, this thing's powerful. But we did get a Thor cameo. We got Frog Thor. Frog Thor was there in a jar, and I think that was like the MCU's way of being like, you keep going on about Frog Thor. All right, here's your Frog Thor. It's a cameo. It's like Howard the Duck. We should have seen Howard the Duck should have been there as well, I think. But maybe he was. Maybe I missed it. Was Howard the Duck there? But yeah, they did Frog 4, and I think that was just a case of, you wanted Frog 4, here's Frog 4, now forget about Frog 4. Well, I'm not going to forget about Frog 4, because you set up the multiverse. So there's infinite Frog 4s, give me more Frog 4s. And give me more classic Loki, because he was so good, he was the best Loki. Yeah, best of all the Lokis, apart from maybe Alligator Loki. And I'm glad Alligator Loki wasn't like, he was just an alligator, and he was just like, you could tell he was like, intelligent, but he wasn't like a wisecracking talking alligator, which I was worried that they might do. No, classic Loki did the translating for him, and they just kept doing like reaction shots to him just sitting there as an alligator without like any emotion or anything. He'd just be like, cut to him, he'd just be like, and I thought that was great. I thought they played him really well. They didn't overdo Alligator Loki, didn't super cute him up, didn't do like silly like gags with him and stuff. Although he did bite President Loki's hand off. That was a great scene. Yeah, I thought they did that really well. Boastful Loki was all right, and Kid Loki was okay. It's cool that he killed Thor. That was a really cool backstory. But out of like the main Lokis, he was all right. Kind of felt a little bit like I don't know, a little bit wooden, I guess. But maybe because we didn't see enough of him. But classic Loki was fantastic. I really want to see a lot more of him. Really interesting Loki as well. One who kind of just, he did the Thanos thing. He sat, he like lived his own life, and then he kind of almost became a little bit of a good guy, a kind-hearted in a way Loki, and super powerful with his illusion abilities as well, and definitely 100% crazy. The fact that he kept his costume on the entire time. I just want a new series of Kid Loki, Alligator Loki, and Classic Loki going around the void, finding Easter eggs. Because he was great. I was really sad when he died at the end, and because there's a multiverse, I hope we get to one day see him again. Mobius is back as well. Mobius is back. He returns, which is good. He didn't really do much in this episode, but it was confirmed that him and Loki are friends. They embrace a little hug, and he's gone off to the TVA. Loki and Sylvie, they've gone off to the castle in the middle of the cloud, Obviously going to see Kang, and Loki and Sylvie. I cringe at their weird incest kind of relationship, but their little moment where they were just sitting there with the blanket, or was it a a tea towel, a tablecloth. That was it, a tablecloth. It was a genuinely sweet scene. There's a really loud bike outside. Hope you can't hear it. Sorry. Generally, really nice scene. Really good seeing them. I kind of feel like the main Loki we know now. I don't know, something like, I think the fact that we keep meeting all of these other Lokis that are like more crazy and more competent and stuff has made the main MCU Loki seem a bit normal and tame. He's almost become boring Loki compared to the other ones. Whereas before he was like, oh, Loki's such a crazy character. And now he seems very normal in that sense. So, which is weird. But no, that scene where they were sitting on the hill with the tablecloth was a generally really nice scene. And in that moment, I was like, you know what? I kind of like him here. But it's still incest and it's still weird. But we'll see where that goes, right? Because he seems happy, she seems happy, and I'm really actually really enjoying Sylvie as well. I'm really liking her character now. Really cool. Now let's talk about the Void World, because the Void World was actually, very briefly before we talk about the Void World, we'll talk about Renslayer. Renslayer, it's confirmed that she didn't know who the head honcho is, but it seems like she's kind of wants to know, and I reckon it's going to be more of well, if that person is super powerful, I want to go work for them because that will mean that I can survive and I can keep doing my job. So yeah, she's definitely going to kind of go that route, I think, of well, I've been lied to at this time, and this person is super powerful. Let's get on their side. Let's get in their good graces, and I can get another promotion. That kind of thing. But let's talk about Void World. So Void World, so many cameos. I've only seen it once. I'm sure there's already hundreds of YouTube videos out there full of other breakdowns of what was going on in Void World. The one that I definitely saw and absolutely love was, we didn't get Thanos, but we got the Thanos copter. The Thanos chopper was in there. That was a great use of a perfect cameo thing. I think there was a helicarrier in there. Ronan the Cruiser's ship was in there. Obviously there was New York and the Avengers Tower. It looked like there was a giant helmet, and it looked like Yellow Jacket's helmet. I might have been wrong with that, but it looked like there was a big version of Yellow Jacket's helmet. So that's kind of cool, because Yellow Jacket was always about shrinking. So this, we never saw a big one. So it's kind of cool. Maybe that's a Yellow Jacket that came from a multiverse where he became Goliath, Yellow Giant. So that was really cool. Obviously we had the Mjolnir, and we had Frogthor in there as well. I can't even remember what other ones. There were like some weird big heads. The pizza cart was really cool, like some big stone heads. We had the ball chickens. Let me know what other ones you saw in the background. There's probably so many. There was a ship falling at one point. I couldn't quite see what that ship was. But yeah, I do just kind of wish it wasn't always so Earth. Everything's always so Earth. A pizza car, that's very Earth, but I guess Earth is just, I guess us humans are the most mischievous and causing the most disturbances for the timeline overall, since everyone in the TVA seems to have come from Earth as well. Again, I'm guessing if it's Kang is from a future version of Earth, right? So he's just a regular human, I think. So I guess that would kind of make sense. But it seems like Earth is very much the centre of the universe, but what can you do? Where it's a show made on Earth, you're going to get a lot of Earth. But yeah, overall, Loki episode 5 was really cool. I'm glad we're getting into some pretty crazy, pretty cosmic stuff. And I really, really hope classic Loki returns. It's been a good day watching lots of great Marvel stuff. My Black Widow review is going to be up around the same time as well. That was just a lot of me rambling about Black Widow. So if you want to hear my Black Widow thoughts, go check that out. I do other little videos like this where I'm just sitting and talking to the camera about Marvel stuff that pops into my head as I say it. And I'm super excited now for the last episode of Loki. I want it to be like 2 hours and just really get into it. But who knows where it's going to go? Is it going to be Kang? Are we going to get trolled? Is it going to be Thanos in the Thanos chopper? Is it going to be Deadpool at the end? The chair turns around and it's Deadpool with baby legs. All right, bye.